All the things we care about tie back to one simple question. Can you turn your lights on in the morning? Whether it's a ranching operation in Routt County, Bitcoin mining in Iceland, or a women-owned business in Ethiopia, the need for affordable, abundant, reliable electricity is critical.
If you look at the benefits of fossil fuels, what do? They provide low-cost, reliable energy to power machines for billions of people to be productive and prosperous, including unnaturally safe from climate.
Across the globe, power equals power.
And when you look at where we are today, it's because we've been able to leverage what's above the ground, on the ground, and below the ground. And being able to take that, plus the technology, has really made America a powerhouse.
Cities, states, and nations are locked in a green energy arms race, competing to implement the strongest environmental policies to try to fight climate change.
Guterres, our UN Secretary General, is perhaps the best sort of source for these kinds of exaggerated claims. He tells us the world is facing a grave climate emergency. Every week brings new climate-related devastation, floods, droughts, heat waves, wildfires, superstorms. We hear all of this, and we're in a battle for our lives, and climate change is the biggest threat to the economy. These claims are mostly false.
Yet policymakers largely overlook the losers of this emissions competition. Ordinary Americans.
And those are real people. I mean, you talk about energy poverty. Energy poverty is in America. It's happening.
I'll close with the thought that precipitous climate action is a far greater danger to the nation's and the globe's well-being than is anything we can imagine for climate change.
Steamboat Institute is more than just a think tank. We are a battle tank.
I really enjoyed today's proceedings. It's one of the more professional and diverse discussions on these subjects I've ever experienced, and I hope I can add to that for you this evening. There's the cover of my book, You Will Perish in Flames, They Say. It's funny because we're actually in one of the coldest periods of the Earth's history right now. Why did I leave Greenpeace after 15 years? They are peddling junk science for donations today, and the real tip of the spear, though, was I was the only director of Greenpeace International, there were 6 of us, who had any formal science education.
One of these battles is to build a better understanding of the nexus of U.S. energy policy and climate science and the impact on individual freedom and prosperity. This understanding will lead to better, more realistic solutions which can address these issues without bankrupting our families and businesses and vastly lowering our standard of living. Well-intended mandates that threaten our reliable sources of power are too consequential to be enacted as virtue signaling or to keep pace with other cities, states, and nations. Real and robust debate is urgently needed to ensure that the impacts on freedom, prosperity, and our standard of living are included in any discussion of energy policy and climate change.
And if fossil fuels were the only way to go, I would be the first person in line saying, let's burn stuff we dig out of the ground. But we have an alternative. The alternative is wind and solar. And those actually are the cheapest power sources now.
And the reason that solar and wind are having increased penetration is because we have an unfair grid that pays the same for reliable and unreliable and then subsidizes unreliable on top of that. This is not some amazing market revolution. This is an economic perversion.
Adaptation is not magic. Okay, people say we will use fossil fuels to master the climate, but that is extremely expensive.
But the whole net zero movement is based on distortions about denying fossil fuels benefits and denying climate mastery. And when you actually look objectively at the full context, it is obvious that the world needs vastly more energy. Most of that needs to come from fossil fuels for the next several decades, and net zero, eliminating fossil fuels rapidly, is a death sentence for billions of people.
Steamboat Institute is proud to bring these issues to light, contribute to the national discourse, and impact energy policy in favor of freedom. With inspiring programs such as our Energy and Climate Summit, Steamboat Institute gives ordinary citizens direct and personal access to leaders on the national and global stage. We hope you will join in supporting our efforts to preserve and protect our precious freedom for future generations.